Welcome to the Morrissey Metcalf Podcast, where we interview cool and interesting people with your host, Len Morrissey. In today's episode, we talk with Michael Guida, a multi-talented musician, entrepreneur, and founder and CEO of the Apollo Academy of Music.
Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it, pal.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I know we did a little bit of a podcast for you a long time ago. Maybe, God, it feels like 2 years ago. But Mike, how long before we start? How long have we known each other?
I think it's been probably around 2 years now.
Is it 2 years? Because I thought it was almost 3, because I started when I moved to Western New York. I started piano lessons with you, and that's how I met you. And I thought that was
Yeah.
early. Wasn't that mid 2000?
I
I just can't
yeah,
remember.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't I think it's been like
2.5
right
years.
around 2. Yeah, I think I can't remember the date, no, but like yeah, I think it's been right around 2 years.
It feels like I
You
just
were
met you, but it feels like I've known you for 20 years. So it's
I
really
I
interesting.
know, right? I know. Yeah, like because you did like a semester with me. I think you or no, did you do more than a semester with me
Well, I
in
did more than
piano?
I think I did a year with you, and then
Yeah.
after the year, we got into many more discussions, and then we sort of we changed it. So, and then that's the story I want to hear from you. So, Mike,
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quickly, tell me about you and tell me about your story.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, man, I have a kind of a crazy life story, but I'll try to keep it short. Um,
Sure.
I grew up in a great household, very supportive. My dad was a doctor, and I actually always wanted to become a doctor of medicine. So that was like my childhood, and I played the piano a lot as a kid,
So,
but I never. Yeah.
was any of your parents were any of your parents or siblings musicians?
Nope.
So, how'd you get into that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, my mom enrolled me when I was like in second grade into some music classes, and I was pretty good at it. Like even from like the first week, I kind of had a knack for playing, and so yeah, it just kind of continued. And my mom enrolled me into like private lessons after that,
Okay.
and then she actually both of my parents just like never let me quit. And so I actually, yeah, I know, right? It's funny. Like, um, I wanted to quit actually for a long time. I really didn't like it pretty
Like,
much
when you
up
say a
until
long time, like 6 months or like 6 years? Like, how
like
long?
years and years and
Really?
years. I just didn't like it. Yeah.
Because I know my wife, Nadine, she was in lessons for 8 years, and I like, "My God, Nadine, you were so lucky to have those," and she did the same thing. She said she would go and sit outside the piano teacher house and not go in, and then go in the last 5 minutes and then go home, and then she said she did the lesson. So so did your father want you to become a doctor, or did you wanna follow in your father's footsteps, and then
I wanted to follow in his footsteps because I was
oh,
like, yeah, I liked science a lot, and my dad always talked to me about
you
like
still like
some
science, but we'll get into that later.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad really always talked to me about like, cool medical stuff and would go
Okay.
into these in-depth explanations, and I was like, yeah, this is great. This is right up my alley, and it's like I loved science, and you know, as a doctor, you can make a good living.
Right.
So I was like, why wouldn't I? This is perfect for me. But I also had like a lot of other interests. Like, man, I love to, I mean, growing up, I biked, I skateboarded, I snowboarded, I played a
Wow.
ton of sports. I played hockey,
Okay.
I did a lot of stuff. And I also played piano, so
Well, hold on, you played ice hockey?
I did.
I didn't know that, 'cause, I'm originally from Canada, and you're in Arizona, but you played
Yeah.
ice hockey? I didn't know that. Were
Yeah.
you a good
Yeah.
player?
I was on the varsity team. So, I
Oh,
mean,
wow. So you're a
yeah,
good
like
skater and
in high
everything,
school.
that's
What's
interesting.
that?
You're a skater.
Yeah. I'm a skater. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you again, but,
Yeah. No.
so at what point did did piano stick with you, and did you decide that I'm gonna go the piano route?
So nearing the end of high school, that's when I first actually started to really enjoy playing. Um, I just played all up until then because I was good at it, and I just wasn't allowed to quit.
Okay.
But then, yeah, like nearing the end of high school, I was like, man, I'm actually like way better than most kids my age. And like I was like the gap was getting wider for some reason. I don't know why, but it just was. And I was,
Yeah,
yeah.
when you say you're better than most kids your age, you mean most kids who studied it a long time, not an average kid, because an average kid knows nothing about piano, right? So you must have
Yeah,
been
who
like
like studied, right?
who
So
studied.
like
Oh, okay.
who
So
studied.
you're comparing yourself to people who studied a long time, and you're much better than them at that time.
Right. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like I went to, some music festivals like in the summertime, and
Right.
I would do some competitions and stuff, and I was winning them. I was winning those competitions, and I didn't like I think it was because I just was pretty ambitious, and I wanted to play like, tough pieces, and that nobody wanted to play, and I would do them pretty well, and I would play them well in front of an audience. So I kind of realized like, I kind of have a knack for this, and I'm actually really starting to enjoy it because I'm doing well and it's fun, and like not many people can do this, and I kind of realized that. So I was like, you know what would be interesting? What if I got a degree in piano and did pre-med, in my undergrad so
Where
that
I think you told me this. So you're going to the dual piano medical lessons.
yeah,
That is a different one,
exactly.
my friend. That's a different one.
Yeah, yeah. So exactly. So I applied to some schools, and for piano, actually, just for piano.
Okay.
And I kind of contacted the schools beforehand saying, could I do a music degree and a pre-med degree? And they were like, and I just applied to the ones that said yes. So I got accepted. I went to University of Denver in Colorado.
Mhm.
Um, and I did a full performance degree in piano, and I did the pre-med classes kind of as my electives, right? So and I took a bunch of summer courses, and it was a lot. It was a ton of work, but I did it.
Right.
And it's crazy because, so going to college for piano was like, just there was a lot of challenges I didn't expect. Um just like I mean I had to perform really well.
Yeah.
And in a college setting you have, a lot of there were a lot of like some of my colleagues were incredibly good, and I was like, wow, I've not really been around this kind of level of performance, and I felt a lot of pressure to do well. So it was tough for
So
me.
you
Like,
you can't you couldn't really do dual, right? I mean, you've gotta be immersed in piano to be is that what was the trigger for you to say, "I gotta do one versus the other?"
yeah, and like exactly.
Yeah.
You're exactly right about that. And so um kind of near the end of my undergrad, I was like, well, I got to make a decision.
Right.
I got to go one way or the other, because either I'm going to med school and I'm making a sacrifice for the rest of my life, like like I got to sit and study a textbook and
Right.
learn everything about the human body, or I become a pianist for the rest of my life.
So you made the choice for the piano, and then you got your PhD in piano.
Exactly. So I made the choice for piano. I did my master's after that. And then I formed some connections, and um, was able to, lucky enough to, get a full ride to my master's, and then on a full ride.
Oh, I didn't know you got a full
Plus,
ride for both of those. That's fantastic. I mean,
yeah,
and you're a virtuoso. You are. I mean, you're not a piano player. You're a concert pianist. I mean, you could
yeah,
be. You could be. I know you're very modest, Mike, but you could be on tour doing the things that a lot of the best players in the world are doing. And I know you say there's great players, and there are, but you could do that if you wanted to. If that was up your alley, if you felt inclined, you could do that. Correct?
I could,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could,
But that's
yeah,
not really. I know you. I know you have way too many interests in too many other things to say. I'm just going to do one thing. That's just not how your brain works, and we're going to get a little bit of that. So,
exactly.
so you graduated from your PhD, and that was a few years ago, right? That was probably 4 or 5 years ago, I think.
Yep, it's now approaching like 4 or 5 years exactly.
Not that long. So tell me about your journey to to entrepreneurship, and how did sort of that get into your brain, and where are you along on that journey? You're
Absolutely.
doing a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like uh money, was never on my mind ever in life. Really, I always just wanted to be the best at what I did, the best at piano. And I kind of like after I got out of school, the fairy tale land of school,
Right.
which it really is. It's a bubble and it's a fairy tale land, and you don't have an idea about what's out there in the real world and how much you can get crushed, easily.
And
And
all you got to do is look on YouTube. I mean, as a musician, right? And I'm a musician as well. And you 5 minute search, and you can find 7-year-old kids that are better than someone who's trained as a PhD. And that's not saying you're not great, because you're
yep,
fantastic. But I see 6-year-old kids playing guitar, and I go, I could spend another 40 years and never be half as good as that person. So yeah, it's soul crushing sometimes when you compare yourself to the entire world, right?
exactly, exactly. And so after I got out of my doctorate, I was like, well, I need to start making some money. And so I kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit, kind of as I got out of school, because I was like, well, I can just make money teaching people, so like I would form my own business and accept students in a very structured way, and get paid for it um, off of a hourly rate.
Right.
And then 3 years down the line, um, I get a message from Len
Well,
on
you did
email.
other stuff before me, lad. So we don't have to talk about it, but you actually learned a software or a programming language, Python, and you do stuff. You've done stuff on the side that showed
Yeah.
your spirit. So before you
Okay,
get to that,
let me back up actually, and
yeah,
and
yeah,
just touch on that a bit,
yes,
because actually that does play a big role in this.
it
So
does.
so after I graduated and I started to accept some students for teaching and get money, hourly rate, all that stuff, I I actually became very interested in the stock market because I saw all these Instagram ads of like people with Lamborghinis, like, making, 20K in a day, or, 50K in a day. And I was just like, and they were doing it trading penny stocks in the stock market essentially.
Yep.
And I actually ran into this one guy. His name was Stephen Ducks, and he was a data trader. He traded based off of data. The concept of like not thinking like, oh, I think the stock's going to go up, so I'm going to buy it here and hope, or something. It was like, no, here's the past data, here's the hard data, and if you trade every single stock, in this pattern, this certain way, you're going to
Yeah.
make X amount of dollars. And I was like, why wouldn't I do that? That sounds awesome. It's
So
up my
remember
alley
my allusion
completely.
earlier to the scientific mind part of it. So that scientific mind part has never gone away for you. It's always been there, and that's where it came. So you said I'm going to try to create some kind of system where I can look at the data and from in a scientific way, and then try to beat, for lack of a better phrase, beat the system that way, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you went and learned a whole the lang I mean, and I've seen you do it because you and I are having fun doing some other things, and you know that language pretty well, and you had no training. You just looked at a book and some online videos, right?
Yeah. So I learned Python because Python really helps with data science and data analysis and just automation. So I automated all my data, many, many years worth of stock data, and created a trading system that I actually, in 3 months, I took a $10,000 account to 100,000.
Right. Well,
And
that's very entrepreneurial, Mike. So I know that you'll try to give me some of the credit for helping you, but the reality is that all I just did was help you explore something else. So because you had it there, and the fact that you were doing that, and you had the initiative and drive to go, and you're doing it with other people, but to be able to go learn a programming language, it's like going to learn Mandarin, right? But in a way
yep,
that you make money. So
exactly.
so yeah.
Exactly. And so I was like, man, like this, this stock thing is great. And I've definitely had my ups and downs, but I'm still trading, to this day. And
Yeah. Still trying
it's
to figure it out. You're still trying to figure out the system and see if you can make it work for you. And it's fantastic. And I've seen it, and it's really really cool, and it's really complex. And your skills in programming now, I don't think they're probably anywhere close to piano, but I can tell you they're better than most college kids who studied it.
I
It's
appreciate
crazy.
that.
It's crazy. Shows you can learn. You put your mind to it. You don't necessarily need, in this day and age, you don't really need education to go far if you have a drive and initiative and grit and all that kind of common language. But
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so after kind of this, actually, you had messaged me pretty much during the time when I was learning how to do all this, and during the time when I was like first really, really trading a lot. And actually, I remember when we were having lessons together, this was maybe like 3, 4 months in, maybe 5 months. You were like, Mike, why don't you know, can I show you, you were like, can I show you something on Excel? Let me show you something. And you showed me a
if
model.
anybody knows me, like, they're like, "Oh God, here he goes with opening Excel." I can't go through one meeting without showing someone an Excel document. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah. And so you showed me, this kind of model of what it would be like if I stopped doing the teaching but hired teachers to do the teaching, and what the numbers could look like, financially, and if I scaled an academy. Um, and it kind of blew my mind because I was like, so I could essentially own that and make passive income and way more money than I could make, and just not have to work for every dollar. Because my mindset today, and it's changed a lot, is if I have to work for every dollar that I make, I'll have to work for the rest of my life. And I'm not going to have freedom. And my whole thing is set yourself up now for freedom later on. And, I kind of think so. I'm almost 31. I'm 30 right now. And I actually, and I shouldn't do this because you know, I I've just gone through a lot in my life, and I didn't know better, but I should have done this a long time ago. Not when I'm late 20s. I should have been doing this when I was like 20, 21,
Dude,
22, right?
yeah. I know you said that to me many times, but you're so young, and really, even if someone who's 60 years old, they haven't done it. They could start it now. In fact, I just saw something online about this saxophone player who learned at age 70, and he's been playing with an orchestra for the last 15 years since he started learning at age 70. So you're still really young in your journey, and I'm 50. I'm still really young in our journey. So it's never too late. I'm really interested in what you said though. Like, there's lots of reasons why I think you're becoming more and more successful every day, and part of it is that goal to be free, and the goal to have other interest in your life, and to be able to scale stuff, and all that stuff. But I think what people don't understand is how much work you've put into this for the last 2 years. Like, you've probably, if you look back at it, you probably worked 2 or 3 times as hard in the last 2 or 3 years to get where you are now. You probably work harder. So it's not like it's easy to do. It's not like you've got all these people working for you and it's simple. It's a lot of work to start this. But I think, I've seen you grow, and I've seen how interested you are. There's times when probably you work too hard, but there are times when your brain is firing on all cylinders. And isn't it fun to sort of put that much effort and time into something that's new and has a possibility of being large?
It's extremely rewarding. Um, when you put that much work in and you see it come to fruition, there's a sense of, I mean, s- I, I hardly have words to describe like the excitement that you feel. It's like, actually, it's funny because, like, so when so like I'll go back a little bit. When you were talking to me about like this, all the numbers for the academy and everything. And I was like, I got to start this. I'm going to start it. So I started the academy and I made like the website. I put tons of work into it. I was like working kind of for months on it every day, round the clock, 24 hours a day. Like I hardly got any sleep trying to set this thing up
I
because
know.
actually it's really tough to set up, and it's hard. You know, you have to figure everything out. What's your subscription model? Like, what's your model? Like, are you doing, just monthly subscriptions? Are you doing every 3 months? Are you doing a
What's your
semester? Are
academy?
you
Where you get your students? Where you get your teachers? How do you set
where?
up? How do you pay people? How do you set up accounts? I mean, how do you set up
Yeah,
your business? Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a million things.
everything, right? So I kind of set up the bare bones of it, and you were like, Mike, get a teacher and get a student. And I was like, I was
I
like,
remember
yes,
that.
sir.
Stop doing what you're doing and get some revenue. Yeah, exactly.
So exactly. So I got a teacher. I found a teacher online through Facebook. I mean, I just messaged people. I thought I went on a Facebook group, piano teachers or something like that, and
Yeah.
found somebody, and someone wanted to work for me. And I was like, okay, I need a student. So a student called me wanting to study with me. They had found my website, my personal website. And I was like, I'm not taking any students right now, but I'd love to set you up with the teacher in my academy. And I just expected her to say no, and I'll just move on. And she was like, yeah, that's great. I almost shed a tear.
Well, because what it did is all that work you put into it. You're like, I don't know if it's going to work because what is it? Elon Musk, I think, said, owning a business is like chewing on glass and staring into the abyss, right? You just don't really truly know if it's all going to come together. So when the first
Yeah.
one comes together, you're kind of like, oh, thank God, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure out this, because I didn't even have like payment stuff set up yet. Like I didn't even, I mean, it was ridiculous. Like I had nothing. Like,
But it's not ridiculous, but it feels ridiculous.
yeah,
But it's not. You got to start somewhere, right?
yeah, exactly. So like I quickly signed up for like an invoicing service, and linked it to the bank account, and started collecting some payment for the lessons, and I wasn't teaching, and I was making money. And I was like, this is, this is powerful. I didn't care. It was, 20, $30 a lesson. But this is, what if I had 100 students for 20, $30 a lesson? What if I had 500? What if I had 1,000 students for 20, $30 a lesson? So that has been just, for me, this whole realization of not working for every dollar, but really just setting yourself up, building and these assets that generate you income.
Yeah.
That is just the my now my way of life and my philosophy. So
Well, it's funny, Mike. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but I remember a couple times when we were first talking, how and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I remember like you had some policies in place that a lot of teachers do, by the way, because I've had lots of lessons, and I used to teach for a long time for chess and stuff, and I did the same thing. So it hits home to me. So you had some policies that were like a little one-sided, I would say, in a sense of how you thought things were. Like, okay, if you pay me for 10 lessons, you get one chance to renew the, to extend the lesson, but after that, forget about it. And
yeah,
it was what everybody does. And then when you started this academy, it kind of blew your, like, I was through a lot of this conversation with you. You kind of started looking at things from a different angle and saying,
yeah,
I'm going to actually provide people with the opportunity to do even more, have more flexibility, because that's what's going to grow my business. So it kind of like the way you used to think in certain aspects, and I'm just talking about policy here, right? And the way you
yep.
think now, they're very different, Mike. Like, I don't know if
Oh
you
yeah,
recognize it. Can you remember some of those things compared to how you used to think?
absolutely, man.
Give me an
Yeah,
example.
it's
Give me
like,
an example so because I'm kind of remembering it a little bit, but like give me an example of some things you used to think about and now you completely changed your mind because you're in business and you see how the
yeah,
opportunity.
yeah. So like, I mean, with me, so like with working as one just as one teacher, right, in my own business. Um, it's basically like, yeah, if you miss a lesson, we have one chance to make it up. It's like you can make up one lesson, and because as one teacher, if I have 20 students, if everyone's trying to make up lessons all the time, I just don't have the time,
It gets
and
overwhelming, right?
it's overwhelming,
Yeah.
right? And so I was like, yeah, you can miss a lesson. I run my show or like my teaching by like semesters.
Yeah.
So it's like you can miss one lesson for the semester, and we can do one makeup per student. And so now it's like, well, I kind of have solved that issue in my academy, and especially for stuff like holidays, like people have unlimited holiday rescheduling. So if their lesson lands on multiple holidays in a row, they can reschedule that unlimited amount of times and get credits for it, right? So, and then also there's also just general rescheduling too, and if they just totally miss a lesson, then I now have this policy where it's like, well, we're actually going to record a video for you and send that straight to the student. So
Have you implemented that, by the way? I know that was what we talked about.
yeah, it's implemented.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Is it
all the
working?
teachers are doing that now. So it's like,
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. I didn't know you were doing that. That's great.
yep. So it's like, and that happens. Like, people get home from work late or whatever, and they miss their lesson. But like now they get home from work and they have a beautiful lesson, right? Sent right to their email, right?
And that's my point, Mike. For you, right? So like for all of us, when you have one, I guess, flow and it's coming from you, and you don't have other resources, it's sometimes it's easy to be stringent, right? And you don't really think, not you, but we don't think outside of the box because it's hard to and it's difficult. But now that you have resources, you have people, now you look at something that was a pain in the butt before. Now you say that's an opportunity. Now is an
Yeah.
opportunity to, because I remember me being, both a teacher and a student in music, especially, where I would say, as a grown ass adult, I would say, I can't make it. I just got home from work at 9 o'clock and I can't make the 9:15, and they'd be like, all right, sorry. I'm like, geez, really? But now it's like, I think if I was a student of yours now, I still am in many ways, but if I was a student of yours, I'd be like, Mike, I don't need to meet you. Just send me a video, man. That's great. I'll do it on my own time. Right? But you actually created a niche out of an opportunity that was painful before, right? So it's like your brain is wired different. I can guarantee your brain is wired differently now than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago, and it's that's what's exciting to me.
It absolutely is. And it's, one of the things is you gotta, as an entrepreneur, your entire day is based around problem solving, right? Solving the problems of the world,
Yeah.
solving the world's problems. I mean, and you're gonna feel the weight of the world on your shoulders every single day. But if you don't, then you're not doing something right,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. And we're
Yeah.
not solving cancer, which I wish we could, but when what I love about music is that your music is the one thing in my life. When I play music, when I learn music, and I love the process of learning music, it's the one place in my life where I feel completely at ease, because my
Yeah.
brain is always going, right? But when I'm playing music, everything shuts down. So I think for a lot of people, that's a similar story. So yeah, so you're solving. You're not solving world famine, but man, you're solving an individual's perspective on peace or beauty or whatever. So it's important.
Yep.
Oh, it's important, and
Absolutely.
I like that sort of analogy towards solving problems and trying to help people, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what most successful sustainable businesses do, right? They're always on the constant outlook of solving problems.
Absolutely. And so just kind of going a little deeper inside, what has gone on in the even in the past 3-4 months in my academy. So now I have 7 teachers, and last year I grew the business from having no students at all to 40 students in a pretty quick time. And I actually was overwhelmed. Here I am with an imperfect system, because no one has a perfect system right away.
Nope.
I have an imperfect system with 40 students, and I still have students that want to join. And I'm I am underwater. Like I'm working really hard to manage all these students and all these teachers, and like so, but I don't have uh, yet enough money coming in to really hire somebody to do this job. I bought myself a job, and so I didn't want this. I didn't want a job. I want, I want to own something. I want passive income, and I want to be, the overseer of
Right.
people who do the jobs, right? So I hired a virtual assistant at first to do this job, and that went horribly. I mean, that was awful.
Yep.
I she didn't understand just about everything I told her to do, and she made tons of mistakes, and it just wasn't good at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I just spent, months training this person and nothing worked. And so what I did was I stopped accepting students for a little bit, and I solved the problem of I need to automate every single aspect of this academy. I need to actually tell the computer what to do in every single instance that can possibly happen. And over the past 4 months, I've been doing nothing but that. 24 hours a day, I automated the entire academy from the second somebody books a first lesson from our website. So
Wow.
now, I am free from this,
Yeah.
these,
You're
yeah,
free. You're free from it for now
for
until the
now.
problem. Yeah, but I remember, Mike, I was the one that pushed you to hire somebody, and the reason why I
Yep.
pushed you, I think you know this, and this is one of the reasons why you'll continue to be successful, even more successful in the future. And I said, I don't know if the person's going to work for you, but you need to experience what you need to bring in somebody that helps you and figure out whether it works or not. And then if it doesn't, you need to figure something else out. So in business, people oftentimes go, I just want something that works. Well, if you're creating something, it's going to work and it's going to break. It's going to work and break, work, break. And that will constantly occur over time. The only difference is that eventually you'll have enough funds to fix it earlier, right? So in the
Yes.
early stages, you got to do it yourself.
Yep.
And then later stages, you hire people to do it,
Yep.
or you buy better systems, right? So you're at the point where you're getting there, you're close to it, but you're figuring your stuff out. And this, I remember one of the first conversations we had. You're like, well, everybody kind of does this, and when I was showing you the spreadsheet, we went to look at some other academies. You're like, there's a lot of people doing this. I go, yeah, but there's a lot of piano students, right? So
Yeah.
I think we did some analysis in China, and I mean, every fourth kid plays piano, right?
Yep.
But most people in business, in my opinion, um, I don't want to say don't do it well. They just sort of stop at a certain point,
Yep.
right? So if you continue to figure it out, push through the hard times, there is an end result that's going to be very, very favorable.
Absolutely. And yeah, I just have, every day I have the end goal, in mind, and all my next little steps in mind too. So it's like, what are my next little steps to get to my end goal? And I have this number in my head, I want to hit 1,000 students, right? But actually I don't want to hit 1,000 students. I want to hit 5,000. I want to
Hey,
hit 10,000. I want to hit 20. I don't care. I want to keep going until I can't anymore. I just
yeah, yeah.
unlimited.
My recommendation is BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, and don't say 1,000, say 50,000. So
Yeah.
have a small goal and a medium goal, and then a 10-year goal. Your 10-year goal is 20 or 100 or whatever it might be. In fact, one of the old consultants that we used to work with at our previous company, uh, I just saw a LinkedIn post, and it used to be he wanted to impact 1 million people, and now I think it's 50 million. So his consulting firm, he wanted to impact 1 million people. So his BHAG is 50 million now. I think that's fantastic, Mike, and I think you're in a you know I always tell people, remember, and I say this to myself all the time, and sometimes it's very difficult when you're in the thick of things, is to remember that when you hit that goal, it ain't nearly going to be as sweet as you think it's going to be, because the process is much more fun than the end result. The end result will happen as a blip, and then you'll be like, now
Yeah.
what? I got a
Yeah.
bigger house, I got nicer cars, I've got this and that. But the reality is that, and you know it, because I could tell, like, when you hit something, you're like, wow, that was not nearly as fulfilling as all the stuff that I put into it.
Yeah.
And so it's, have the goal, but knowing the process is really important for entrepreneurs for longevity, right? Sustainability.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Mike,
You're absolutely right.
this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate learning. I've learned some things today, which is kind of nice because I've known you for a while and talk all the time. So thanks for doing this, pal. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime.